Mo Flava on 947.
On a daily, we look at people's tricky life situations. Yes, your dilemma. And today we've got Maggie sending in a message who is really between a rock and a hard place. That's where she finds herself. And let me tell you why. Here's the story. She said, listen, I need some perspective because my conscience is eating at me and it's eating me alive. I recently started at this new job. It's a dream role, part of my long-term plan. And for the most part, I love the work. But the culture shock is just so hectic. I've come in as a senior with quite a bit of experience, so I've got respect of the big guys upstairs. But my problem is how these senior guys treat and talk to the juniors. It's like they've forgotten how to be human. It's not just the tough love that people talk about or the high pressure. It's just straight up bullying. I see these kids getting torn down in meetings, spoken to like they're nothing. And I'm just sitting there thinking, when did this become okay? The struggle is I'm this new girl in the senior circle and I don't want to rock the boat and ruin my own reputation before I've even settled in. But I keep wishing these juniors would stand up for themselves. But then I realize they're scared. So what do? Do I use my senior status to call out the bullying and risk being the difficult new hire? Or do I just mind my own business, keep my head down and let the culture stay toxic? Is it even my job to fix a house that I've literally just moved into? That is Maggie's story. A story that I think resonates with a lot of us because how often do you walk into a work environment that is toxic? Whether you're in a senior position or whether you're in a junior position. And the question always becomes, apart from going to HR and following all those processes in terms of, how they deal with the management of people and issues and all of that, it doesn't just go away immediately. I mean, that's the honest truth. You can go to HR, but some things don't just get dealt with immediately. They don't just vanish immediately. It's difficult to get rid of a culture almost instantly. So is it then not the best way to rock the boat? Then you change culture if you rock the boat. Otherwise, it's, much of the same, really. The more things change, the more they stay the same sort of thing. You know what? Like sometimes it's about the role you play in the workplace. As in, maybe you're the person that people confide in. They come to you, they tell you about their problems, their issues in the workplace, etc., and then you assume that role. What I'm trying to say is maybe that's a useful role. Just to listen to the issues that people have and be a space where people can offload. Obviously, there can be something tricky about that because there might be things that you're being told about that you're not supposed to know about. But I think the point is, if you're not going to rock the boat, then what else can you do to change a toxic environment? Is there anything you can do? And if you are, somebody that's experienced this sort of thing before, I mean, what did you do to try and either deal with the toxic work environment or remove yourself from it? And is there any sort of role that you ultimately played for your colleagues who were literally going through the most because of this toxic work environment? I'd love your thoughts on this. I mean, Maggie is also keen on getting your perspective. So, what do you do when you walk into a place and you're fairly new and you realize that, oh my word, this is such a toxic environment?
947.
Maggie sent in a story saying she's new in a company. She's got a bit of a senior role. So, she gets taken seriously by the big guys upstairs, as she phrases it. Her biggest problem is that, hey man, this environment is toxic. She says the way they talk to the juniors in this building, oh my gosh. And it just really bothers her. And now she's thinking, do I shake and rock the boat and be like, no, hang on guys, we can't treat people like they're subhuman. Let's stop this. Let's change the culture. But now she says if she starts rocking the boat, then she might just end up being the least favorite girl in the building. So how do we deal with toxic environments? And I think we can all agree that it's nonsense. In present day society, we shouldn't be having a situation where some people have a voice in the building and some people don't. Everybody should have a voice.
How's it, Mo? Yeah, you're speaking to MJ. I think where I used to work before, we had the same toxic environment like that, but I was still a junior by the time. And then I stood up for myself. And then the senior bosses called me for a meeting. And I was told to learn to fight for myself, since the rest couldn't fight for themselves. So I was told to fight for myself only, not for anybody else.
You know what? I agree with the concept of, standing up for yourself. Absolutely. You have to find your own voice and you have to speak up. You know what I mean? That's what I live by. Everywhere I've been, everywhere I've worked, I speak. It's important, but there's a way in which you do it. And the whole idea for me is to always speak with the idea of finding solutions or resolving things, as opposed to saying, I'm just going to speak and make noise for the hell of it, but, with no productive sort of approach to things. But absolutely speak up.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. But then in reality, the only correct way to eat an elephant is a bite at a time. To me, I kind of feel it's more risky if you just shake the boat now, because then you risk your own employment and your own reputation, and they'll corner you out and you end up leaving. And then that toxic culture continues in that company. So it takes one individual to change the entire environment. Bit by bit, you must display kindness, gentleness, understanding, and humanity. You can display it even more in public meetings, being kind and treating others fairly and equally. So my advice is it takes one bite at a time to devour an entire elephant.
Absolutely love that, Maggie. If there's anything you should take from this conversation, screw everything I said. Take what this guy has just said. I think he's absolutely spot on.
Fortunately for Maggie, that's the nature of the beast, especially for corporate. It looks glossy from the outside, but from inside, you'll be very, very fortunate if you find a place that treats their juniors like very well. So for Maggie, the decision is between her own personal career growth or to be casted outside, because once she goes to HR, it's not as simple as going to HR. HR knows about that and HR is part of it. So if she goes to HR, then she's obviously positioning herself to be obviously targeted and make sure that she will be singled out and they will make sure that she leaves her position. So she needs to choose, And I say she must just go for a personal career growth and then obviously build herself up, and then maybe later on in life, then when she's in a more higher or a more senior position, then she can make sure that the same doesn't happen.
Yeah, there's many ways to skin this cat, if I may, with the phrase. One of the questions I always have is, who starts this toxicity? Like, who starts this toxic culture? It comes from somewhere. You know what I mean? It doesn't just, manifest out of nothing. It starts from somewhere. Somebody starts it. Somebody perpetuates it, a group of people, etc. So what is the source of it? You know what I mean? I've always wondered, because if you remove every single individual out a building, then there goes the toxic culture. Because it's not the bricks that have the toxicity. It's not the windows and the doors. It's people. So who starts it? You know what I mean? And one of the things that always bothers me, especially just with the previous voice note, is the realities at times where people say, HR is unhelpful. They're just a part of it. And what's the point? What's the point of a human resource pillar in a company if all you're going to do is perpetuate the very nonsense that makes everybody unhappy? And when people are unhappy, there's no productivity. And then when there's no productivity, then nothing happens. So Maggie, I think today's story that you've shared with us is more than just about you, sorry to say. It's about, I think, a lot of what many people experience in the workplace. And I hope some of the comments that have come in will give you some perspective, the very perspective that you're looking for.
947